936 AD, Oslo Fjord. We sailed away from Norway forever this morning. I composed a sorrowful song of parting. We are sailing down the fjord to the sea. We are sailing stormy waters to where Vikings can be free. We're a pretty small party, just Erik and Gunhild, a few faithful supporters. Oh, and me, of course. Not many people turned up to see us off. Vikings don't care who's on the throne, as long as there's lots of raiding and feasting. Mind you, there may not be much of that with Hakon in charge. From what I hear, he became a Christian at Athelstan's court, and we all know what that lot are like. Monks are the worst. I remember one of them still trying to bless me even after I'd chopped his arms and legs off. Gives you the willies, that sort of thing. (938 AD), Dublin, Ireland. After raiding down the west coast of Scotland, Erik decided to sail over to Ireland to pay a visit to old Olaf Guthfrithson. Olaf's been king of Dublin for 4 years now. The Vikings in Ireland are a friendly bunch, and we got on like a house not on fire. Vikings only set fire to the houses of people they don't get on with. King Olaf was especially pleased to see us. We soon found out why. He wants to recapture the Viking kingdom of Jorvik from the Saxons, and he's trying to raise an army. So it was agreed that when Olaf sets sail next year, Erik and the rest of us will be with him. (939 AD), Jorvik, England. We sailed up the river to Jorvik this morning with not a Saxon in sight, and here we are. I'll say one thing for it, Jorvik is big. There's nothing like it in Norway. Olaf tells me it's the biggest city in England after London, and the richest. As we got nearer, the walls with their 8 great towers rose out of the mist. It was like sailing into Valhalla. Until, that is, we got closer to the wharves. The Romans built the walls. They also built drains, but from the smell of the place they'd stopped working long ago. The river that runs through Jorvik is called the Ouse. It certainly does. Phew! Most of the people who live in Jorvik are Danish Vikings. So when Olaf told them that he was going to be king, they all cheered like mad, as it meant having a Viking in charge again. (941 AD), Jorvik. Poor old King Olaf Guthfrithson, king of Dublin and Jorvik, died today. It's not right for a Viking chieftain to die in his bed. It means he will go to Niflheim, the land of eternal ice, ruled by Hel, the queen of the dead. A Viking who dies in battle goes to the gods' country, Asgard. Every day he fights again in the greatest of all battles, and every evening he goes to feast with Odin, the father of the gods, in Valhalla, the hall of the slain. Valhalla has walls made of golden spears and a roof made of golden shields. It has 540 doors, each wide enough to allow 800 men to pass through side by side. Every night the hall is filled with Viking warriors, eating and drinking to their heart's content. The new king of Jorvik is Kuaran. I don't like him. A proper Viking will spear you through the chest. That's fair play. But Kuaran will stab you in the back and then claim it was some other bloke. I'm getting used to living in Jorvik. It felt very crowded to begin with. There are more than 30,000 people living here. Most of them live inside the city walls, but there's not enough room for everyone, so there are houses built along some of the roads leading out of the city. The roads are very muddy a lot of the time, so most trade is carried by boats. The Vikings all live in one part to the south of the old Roman citadel. The houses are long houses made of wattle and daub with thatched roofs, just like the ones back home, only smaller. But instead of one long house, there are lots, all built facing each other across wooden walkways. It's all very civilized. I said this to Gunhild, who arrived from the Orkneys last week, and she gave me a right mouthful. "That's Vikings for you," she raged. 1,000 years ago the Romans were building cities of stone, and you think it's really sophisticated to live in a hut with a grass roof and walls made out of sticks, mud and cow poo. Gunhild can say what she likes. Jorvik's not a bad place, as cities go. (944 AD, Jorvik). Erik's fed up with Jorvik. There's far too much Christianity for his liking, and not enough blood and guts and feasting. We can't stop him, so it's back to the Orkneys for Erik. (948 AD, Jorvik). Erik Bloodaxe is back in Jorvik, and this time he's back as king. After years of being pushed about by the Saxons, Archbishop Wulfstan and Earl Orm sent a message to Erik. "Come and be king, and bring back the great days of Olaf Guthfrithson." Asked if he had a message for the Saxons, Erik replied, "Watch out, you no-good Sax, 'cause I'm after you with my Bloodaxe." Adapted from the Lost Diary of Erik Bloodaxe, Viking warrior.
The Lost Diary of Erik Bloodaxe, Viking Warrior, by Steve Barlow and Steve Skidmore. When Harald Finehair, the first king of Norway, died in 930 AD, his son, Erik Bloodaxe, was crowned the new king of Norway. A few years later, Erik's younger brother, Hakon, claimed the throne and forced Erik and his wife, Gunhild, to leave Norway. There are many stories about Erik Bloodaxe, and nobody knows which is true. Some people think that he was the last Viking king of Jorvik, York. The Lost Diary of Erik Bloodaxe, Viking Warrior, is a story about what the life of Erik Bloodaxe might have been like, as told by Gorblimey, a court poet.
Scotland. We sailed quietly up the river this morning, and there before us lay a small town. It looked very friendly and peaceful. Well, we couldn't have that, could we? We ran the longships aground and crept up to the town gates. Then we charged, chanting our terrifying Viking battle cry. The men from the town rushed out to defend it, only to fall, dying before us, as my praise song tells. Scots scattered wild wolves and eagles at evening, feasted on corpses, battle cranes cried over fields of the slain, bright blood bathed the beaks of ravens. Ah, yes, it was a great victory. The defenders were half asleep and not many were armed, which is usually what happens when you attack people before dawn. Most of the women and children got away. You have to let them go or there'd be nobody to raid next time. We pinched whatever we could carry, set fire to the town and legged it. Just routine, really, but I still had to write a praise song about it. The Orkney Islands. We have reached a group of bare and windswept islands to the north of Scotland called the Orkneys. Erik chose a bay with a stream and some flat fields for farming, and here we are. The land is brown, the sea is brown, even the sky is brown. Everything else is even less interesting to look at. These islands are the pits. Back in Norway, we make our houses out of wood, but there aren't any trees here. We've had to use turf laid on top of earth and stones. Once we'd landed, Erik got us building a long hall so everyone has somewhere to go in the evenings to eat and listen to me reciting praise poems for Erik. Even the pigs, sheep and goats have ended up in the hall until we can build a barn for them. We've finally got the barn built, thank Odin. With lots of Vikings and animals living in one room, the smell was terrible. All the animals were complaining. Everybody has been busy building stores and houses. When I say everyone has been busy, I don't mean Erik, of course, or Gunhild. They've got thralls working for them. Erik just sits in his special chair in the longhouse bossing everyone about, and Gunhild sits there bossing Erik. Crops have been planted as well: barley, rye, oats, peas, beans and turnips. More importantly, ale and mead are being brewed. We might even manage a halfway decent feast one of these days. Gunhild is still moaning about missing the Norwegian weather. I don't see why. It's just as foggy, cold and wet here in the Orkneys as it was back home. A lot of Vikings have joined Erik's settlement here in Orkney, and with the raiding season just starting, we're off to have a crack at the Scots. I reckon it's just Erik's excuse to get away from Gunhild for a bit. She's been moaning about having to look after the farm whilst Erik's away, but the work has to be done, and it's the woman's place to do it. Anyway, she's got plenty of thralls to help her out. We had to buy some more ships from the local boat builder, especially for the raid. We've been busy loading supplies on board: weapons, tools, cooking items, chests, furs, water, more weapons, and some food, although we'll try and nick as much food as we can when we get raiding. King Erik sent for me this morning and told me that we were off in the Wrath of Odin. That's the name of his ship. All Viking longships are called things like Wrath of Odin, or Vengeance of Thor, or Death Dragon. If you're going to leap ashore in a battle fury and chop people to bits, you don't want to be doing it from boats called the Skylark or Bluebell.